I spent years believing I was losing people. But in the silence of the imperial court, I discovered something more painful. I never lost them. I was simply never fully present with them. My name is Sei Shonagon, and in the 11th century, while serving Empress Teishi, I learned that the pain of loss doesn't come from those who leave, but from the moments we let slip away while they were still here. I wrote about everything, about flowers, about rituals, about conversations, but I only understood too late. Every word I recorded was a desperate attempt to recover what I didn't fully experience when I had the chance. What if I told you that you don't suffer from losing people, but from finally realizing how many moments you wasted thinking you would have more time? The illusion of permanence. I wake up every morning in the imperial court and see the same faces. Empress Teishi with her gentle smile, the other ladies in their carefully chosen robes, the courtiers passing through the corridors with their daily concerns. And seeing these faces every day, seeing them so consistently present, I began to believe something dangerous, that they would always be there, that the Empress would always occupy that place, that my colleagues would always be available for trivial conversations, that the visitors who fascinated me would always return. I built an entire mental edifice on this foundation of sand. The idea that the present is just one of many identical nows that would extend indefinitely into the future. It is the most comforting and most fatal illusion a human being can embrace: permanence. And I embraced it completely, as if it were an unquestionable fact of existence. There's a specific ceremony at court that I regularly attend: moon gazing. We all gather, dressed appropriately for the season, and contemplate the lunar glow while reciting poetry and sharing reflections. And during these gatherings, I often find myself thinking about the next ceremony. How I can write something more intelligent, more impressive. I mentally plan my words for the next month, for the next season. I look at the moon, but I don't really see it. I'm seeing the future moon, the one yet to rise, the one I imagine to be more important than the one shining upon me now. And I look at the people around me in the same way, not as they are in this moment, but as I imagine they will be next time. I treat each encounter as a draft of the real encounter that will happen when I'm truly ready to pay attention. But that prepared moment, that perfect encounter where I will finally be completely present, it never arrives, because I always project it into the future, always place it just beyond the horizon. Empress Teishi once told me something I didn't understand at the time. She said, "Shonagon, you write about moments as if you want to imprison them on paper because you know they die." I smiled and replied with some intelligent observation about the nature of art and memory. But what she was really saying, and I only understood this much later, is that I treated moments as things that could be captured and stored for later consumption, as if I could only partially live now and complete the experience later. When I revisited my notes, I would look at a cherry blossom and immediately think about how to describe it, instead of simply seeing it. I would talk to someone and already be mentally editing the conversation for my record, instead of being inside the conversation. I transformed my entire life into research material for a future life I would never live, because I would always be busy researching, never living. And that's only possible when you believe there will always be more material, more moments, more people, more time. There's a cruel game I play with myself without realizing it. When someone speaks to me, really speaks, not just superficial social conversation, but shares something genuine, I often think, this is important. I need to pay proper attention to this. And then, paradoxically, I don't pay attention, because I've decided it's too important for my current state of distraction, so I must postpone it to a time when I can give it the proper attention. It's as if there's a future version of myself, more present, more attentive, more prepared. Who would be the appropriate person to receive that intimacy? The current version, distracted, tired, thinking about other things, is just a temporary substitute. But here's the terrible truth. There is no future version. There is only the current version, and it's letting life pass by while waiting for permission that will never come, for preparation that will never be completed, for a right moment that is already happening and being wasted. When I finally began to understand the fragility of it all, when the disease began to spread through the court, when I saw strong people suddenly become frail, when the empress began to wither away, it wasn't a gentle awakening. It was a violent collapse of the entire structure upon which I had built my existence. Because if nothing is permanent, if every person I see today might not be here tomorrow, if every conversation could be the last, then I wasted everything. All those moments I treated as drafts, as rehearsals, as preparations for the real moment. They were the real moments. And I experienced them as minor obligations on the way to something greater that would never arrive. The illusion of permanence is not just an abstract, philosophical error. It is the anesthesia that allows us to fall asleep through our own lives, waking only when it is too late to recover what we have lost. Not because it was taken from us, but because we never truly grasped it when it was offered. Every face I see today could be the last time I see that face, and I pass by them as if they were permanent scenery, when in fact they are temporary apparitions that will soon disappear, leaving only the haunting question, did I really see them while they were here? The ghost of divided attention. I became a master of mental duplicity. In the imperial court, this was almost a necessary skill, the ability to participate in a ceremony while simultaneously assessing who was present, what they were wearing, how it compared to the last time, what I would write about it afterward. I could smile and wave at the right moment, murmur the appropriate words of appreciation, maintain my impeccable posture, all while my mind was miles away, editing sentences for my pillow book, organizing mental lists of things that delight and things that disturb. I thought this made me efficient, sophisticated, capable. I thought I was maximizing each moment by extracting multiple layers of utility from it. But what I was really doing was ensuring that I was never fully anywhere. I fragmented myself into so many simultaneous versions that none of them were substantial enough to truly inhabit a moment. I became a ghost in my own life, present just enough that my absence wouldn't be noticed, but too absent to truly touch or be touched by anything. I vividly remember, or at least I think I remember, one afternoon when one of the other ladies of the court came to me, visibly distressed. She sat beside me and began to speak of her worries, of a fear consuming her, of something that had happened in her family, and I listened. Or rather, my body was there listening. My eyes met hers, my head nodded at appropriate moments, my mouth produced sounds of empathy. But while she spoke of her deepest fear, I was mentally composing a response that would make her see me as wise. I was assessing whether that situation would be interesting enough to record later. I was noticing the way the afternoon light fell on her face and thinking about how I would describe that specific quality of light. I transformed her vulnerability into material, her pain into an opportunity to demonstrate my eloquence. And when she finished speaking and thanked me for listening, I felt a pang of something, shame perhaps, or the unsettling awareness that I hadn't really heard a single word. I had been present at the scene of that moment, but absent from its true essence. What I discovered, too late, is that divided attention isn't multiplied attention, it's nullified attention. When I try to pay attention to three things simultaneously, I'm not giving 33% attention to each. I'm giving 0% real attention to all of them. I'm just processing surfaces, capturing only enough of each experience to create the illusion of participation. It's like rushing through an art gallery. Technically, you saw all the paintings, but you didn't really see any of them. You saw splashes of color, vague shapes, but you completely missed what made each one unique, meaningful, capable of touching something in you. And that's how I treated people. Like paintings in a gallery where I was always rushing, always on my way to another room, always convinced there would be time to come back and look properly later. But there is no later in the gallery of life. Every person you meet is a temporary exhibit, and when they're removed, it doesn't matter how many times you were technically in the same room as them. If you never stopped to really look, you never saw them. There's an expression we use in court, okashi, that which evokes a pleasant emotion, that which delights, that which subtly touches the heart. I spent years cataloging okashi things, creating elaborate lists of moments I considered enchanting. But here's the cruel irony. By transforming everything into material for my lists, by constantly evaluating whether something was okashi enough to be recorded, I lost the ability to simply be enchanted. I positioned myself as a curator of experiences instead of a participant in them. I would see a bird singing and immediately think, this deserves to be on my list of enchanting sounds, instead of simply listening to the song. I would see someone laugh and already be mentally formulating how I would describe that laughter, instead of allowing myself to be touched by their joy. My mind became a machine for processing and categorizing experiences for future consumption. But in the process of processing, I never truly consumed anything in the present. I became a professional witness to my own life, always observing, never fully participating, always preparing the report instead of living the event. And the silences. Oh, how I wasted. The silences. In court culture, we highly valued the ability to fill silences with intelligent observations, with appropriate poetry, with displays of erudition, and I was exceptional at it. When a conversation paused, I already had an elegant reflection ready. When someone sat quietly beside me, I felt the pressure to fill that empty space with something meaningful. But now I understand that those silences were not empty. They were full of pure presence, of connection unmediated by words, of intimacy that needed no verbal ornamentation. And I destroyed them, repeatedly, because I couldn't tolerate simply being present without also performing. There was one particular occasion, and this memory haunts me, when the Empress and I were sitting together watching the rain. She said nothing for long minutes, just observed, and there was something profoundly peaceful in her expression. And I, unable to simply share that silence, began to recite poetry about rain. She smiled politely and praised my verses. But now I realize I had broken something precious. In that silence, she was offering me her complete, unmediated presence, simply being. And I, unable to receive this gift, destroyed it with words, because words were the only currency I knew how to use. I didn't lose the Empress when she died. I lost her in that rainy moment, and in hundreds of other similar moments, when my inability to be fully present transformed her real presence into just another wasted opportunity for true connection. Regret is not about absence, it's about wasted presence. When Empress Teishi died, I thought I knew grief. I thought I understood the pain of loss, that emptiness left by someone's departure. But what I discovered in the days, weeks, and months that followed was something infinitely more devastating. I wasn't mourning her absence. I was mourning my own absence during all the years she was present. The pain didn't come from her leaving. It came from finally realizing, too late, how many times I had been physically by her side, but mentally elsewhere. How many conversations I cut short because I had an important piece of writing to finish. How many times she called me simply to sit with her, and I invented an elegant excuse because I needed to seem busy, relevant, indispensable to other people. Each memory I revisited wasn't a celebration of the time we had. It was an indictment of the time I wasted. And this realization didn't arrive as a gentle sadness. It arrived like a knife, sharp and relentless, cutting through every comfortable illusion I had built about who I was and how I lived. There's a specific kind of regret that only exists when you realize you had exactly what you wanted and didn't know how to recognize it. If the Empress had died suddenly without me having the chance to know her, I might lament the lost opportunity. If circumstances had separated us against our will, I might blame fate. But I had years with her. I had daily access to one of the most extraordinary women I've ever known. She sought me out, trusted me, shared thoughts she didn't share with others. And what did I do with this invaluable privilege? I treated it as something commonplace, something guaranteed, something that would always be available when I finally decided to stop and pay proper attention. I had a treasure in my hands and treated it like common currency because I was so convinced there would always be more, that she would always be there, that I could withdraw from that bank infinitely without ever exhausting the funds. And now the funds are gone, and I finally understand the value of what I had. But understanding now is the perfect cruelty, because the understanding came precisely when there's nothing more I can do with it. I remember one particular afternoon, and this memory tortures me with a clarity I wish I didn't have, when the Empress asked me to stay with her. There was nothing formal happening, no ceremony, no official reason. She simply wanted company, and I stayed, but only for a few minutes because I had promised someone else I would proofread her poems, because there was a social gathering I thought would be interesting to observe from my notes. I told her, with a smile I imagined to be charming, "I'll be right back, I promise. I just have a few matters that can't wait." And she smiled back, that gentle smile she always had, and said, "Of course, Shonagon. Go take care of your important matters." I didn't realize it. At the time, how could I have? But there was something in that smile. Not disappointment exactly, but perhaps a resigned acceptance that I would always have something more important to do. And I left, satisfied with myself for being so sought after, so busy, so relevant. I never returned that afternoon. The important matters multiplied as they always did. And now, years later, that moment haunts me. Why those poems I revised? I don't remember any of them. That social gathering? Completely forgotten. But that smile from the Empress, that opportunity to simply sit with her when she wanted company, that I remember with a burning clarity. Regret has a specific voice, and it's not the one you'd expect. It's not dramatic or poetic. It's simple, repetitive, relentless. You were there. You were right there. Why weren't you there? It's the voice that recounts, again and again, all the times you had exactly what you now wish you had had. When the Empress died, people offered me the usual. Condolences. At least you had time with her. What a blessing to have served her for so many years. How many precious memories you must have shared. And I smiled and thanked them. But inside there was a scream. I didn't have time with her. I had physical proximity with her, but that's not the same as real time, real presence. You can spend years a few feet away from someone and never really be with them, never really see them, never really let them touch you beyond the superficial layers of politeness and performance. And the memories people imagined I had? They were mostly records of my own mental absence, photographs of moments where my body was in the frame, but my consciousness was somewhere else entirely. And here is the particular cruelty of this kind of regret. It doesn't let me blame anyone but myself. I can't blame death for taking someone too soon. The Empress lived as long as she did, and I have no control over that. I can't blame circumstances for separating us. We weren't separated. I had access to her daily. I can't even blame ignorance. I knew, at some deep level, that nothing lasts forever, that people die, that opportunities close. I simply chose to live as if that knowledge didn't apply to me, as if I had a special exception to the laws of impermanence. And that choice, because it was a choice, even if unconscious, leaves me with a kind of pain that has no external destination. It turns completely inward, a perpetual accusation. You had the chance. You had a 1,000 chances. And you traded them for things you can't even remember now because you were so busy accumulating future moments that you never truly inhabited the present moments. Regret isn't about wishing you had more time. It's realizing that you had time, abundant time, and you spent it as if it were infinite, as if you could always go back and properly relive those moments later, when you were less busy, less distracted, less convinced of your own importance. And now, later has arrived. And it's too late. And all that remains is the sharp and relentless awareness that the loss didn't begin when she died. It began in every moment I chose not to be fully alive by her side. The tyranny of after. I've lived my entire life in a state of permanent rehearsal, always preparing for the real moment, always postponing the true performance until the conditions were perfect. After I finish this writing, I'll have a proper conversation with her. After the ceremony season is over, I'll have time to really listen. After I organize my thoughts, I'll be ready to be fully present. Afterward was my religion, my unwavering faith that there would always be a more appropriate, less chaotic, more conducive future moment to truly live. And that word, afterward, seems so innocent, so practical, so reasonable. It sounds like sensible time management. But what was it really? It was a sophisticated way of never being anywhere, because when afterward finally arrived, I simply renamed it now and created a new afterward to postpone everything that mattered. I built an entire life on a perpetual future that never materialized, while the present, the only time that truly exists, slipped through my fingers like sand, ignored, wasted, treated as a mere prelude to something more important that always lay just beyond the horizon. In court, I was known for my dedication to writing. I spent hours refining observations, polishing sentences, creating elaborate lists of things that touched or disturbed me. And I justified this dedication by telling myself that I was documenting the beauty of life, preserving precious moments. But the truth that now haunts me is that I used writing as a shield against real life. When someone sought me out for a genuine conversation, I thought, I need to finish this section first, then I'll have time for it properly. When the Empress invited me to simply sit and watch the moon together, I thought, after I record my observations from yesterday, I can appreciate this moment without distractions. I transformed each present moment into an obstacle to an idealized future moment where I would finally be free, available, completely present. But that moment never arrived because I constantly pushed it forward like a carrot on a stick that the donkey never reaches. Meanwhile, real life, real people, real opportunities for connection came and went, treated as inconvenient interruptions on the path to that perfect future life I promised myself I would live afterward. There was a colleague at court, a man of remarkable intellect, who frequently sought conversation with me. He had fascinating perspectives on poetry, on philosophy, on the nature of beauty and suffering. And every time he approached me, I thought, this conversation deserves my full attention. But now is not the time. I am preoccupied with other things. Later, when I have more mental energy, when I am not so busy, we will have a truly profound conversation. And I always gently evaded him, always with a reasonable excuse, always with the implicit promise that there would be a later when that conversation could properly take place. One day, he simply stopped seeking me out. There was no drama, no confrontation. He simply realized what I hadn't, that my later was a polite rejection disguised as postponement. And when I finally had time, when my other occupations lessened, and I thought, now I can have those deep, high conversations, he was no longer available. Not because he had died or left, but because he had learned that I wasn't truly interested. I had classified it as optional, as something that could be accessed when convenient. And he, unlike me, understood something fundamental. Either you are important to someone now, or you are not truly important. The phrase later is a way of categorizing people into levels of priority. And what I discovered is that everything I put on later was tacitly being classified as not important enough for now. I told myself I was honoring people by wanting to give them my full attention when the time was right. But what I was really doing was treating them like items on a menu that I could order whenever I felt hungry. The Empress? She was always available, so I could postpone her to any later. That friend? He clearly appreciated me, so there would always be a future opportunity. That lady who wanted reassurance? Her problem didn't seem urgent, so it could wait until I was less busy. I turned human beings into permanent options, inexhaustible resources that I could draw upon whenever it suited me. And the cruelty of this perspective only became clear when these resources began to disappear, through death, distance, or simply from weariness of always being postponed. And then I realized each later was a disguised way of saying, "You're not a high enough priority to interrupt what I'm doing now." And people eventually hear that message, even when we don't say it out loud. And here's the most painful paradox. The more I postponed real life until later, the busier I became, and therefore, the more I needed to postpone. I became a prisoner of a self-perpetuating system. My postponing being present created more work because partial presence is inefficient, which created more busyness, which justified more postponement. It was a vicious cycle disguised as productivity. I looked at my packed schedule and thought, see how important I am, how necessary I am, how many things depend on me. But what I was really seeing was the accumulated cost of never being fully present anywhere. Each task took longer because I did it with divided attention. Each relationship required more maintenance because I was never truly present. Each moment demanded revisiting because I never fully inhabited it the first time. The Empress used to say, I always seemed to be running, even when I was standing still. And she was right. I was. Always mentally racing toward that mythical later, where I would finally have time. But later is where life will die. It's the graveyard of all the good intentions that never materialized, of all the conversations that never happened, of all the moments sacrificed on the altar of a future that never arrives. And I buried so much in that graveyard, so many potential relationships, so many moments of possible intimacy, so many versions of myself that I could have been if I had only stopped, procrastinating, and started living. The later promised me a better life, more organized, more present. But all it delivered was an ever-growing collection of regrets for everything I didn't experience while waiting for the right moment that never came. Live as if each moment were your last, because it is. I used to think death was an event, something that happened at the end, a clear dividing line between presence and absence. But I learned, through a pain I wouldn't wish on anyone, that death is not a singular event. It's a continuous process happening every instant. Every moment I share with someone dies the next second. That specific version of that person, with that particular light falling on their face, with that exact expression, saying those specific words in that tone, that version dies and never exists again. The person may continue to live, but that specific moment is a unique being that is born and dies in a single breath. And for years, I watched these little deaths happen. Without realizing it, without honoring them, without being truly present. I treated each moment as a prelude to the next, each conversation as a draft of a future conversation, each encounter as a rehearsal for a more meaningful one. But there are no rehearsals. Each moment is already the final performance. And I missed 1,000 performances by always being in the wings, preparing for something that was already happening. There's a memory that visits me repeatedly, and each time it comes, it brings with it a deeper understanding of what I've lost. It was an ordinary morning at court. Nothing special was planned. Empress Teishi was sitting near a window, observing the garden. And there was something in the way the morning light touched her face, something transient, impossible to capture or adequately describe. She saw me and smiled, that smile that was uniquely hers, and said something completely trivial about the weather or the flowers. And I replied, also trivially, already half, thinking about the writing I needed to finish that day. It was a moment of perhaps 30 seconds. Nothing memorable, nothing dramatic. But now I understand. That moment was unique in the history of the universe. That Empress, in that light, with that smile, saying those words, she had never existed before, she would never exist again. It was a singular apparition, and I was there, physically present to witness it. But I didn't witness it. I was there only as a ghost, my consciousness already in. the future already in the next thing. And that moment died, as all moments die, but it died without being truly lived. It was a wasted life, not her life, but the life of that moment, which deserved to be honored and was merely passed over. What does losing someone really mean? I used to think it meant their absence after death or departure. But now I understand that I was losing people constantly, daily, while they were alive and by my side. Every time my mind wandered during a conversation, I lost them. Every time I looked at them but saw only an abstraction, the empress, my colleague, that lady, instead of the specific, unrepeatable person before me, I lost them. Every time I treated our interaction as a transaction or obligation instead of a precious opportunity, I lost them. Loss doesn't just happen at the end. It happens in every moment of absence. In every instant, we choose to be somewhere else mentally. And the particular cruelty is that this continuous loss is invisible. The person is still there, so it seems we haven't lost anything. But we're losing everything. We're losing irreplaceable versions of her that will never exist again, unique opportunities for connection that are closing forever, moments that could have been portals to true intimacy, but that we treat as mere time-filling between important events. There's a Buddhist practice I once heard described, living as if each encounter were the last. At the time, I thought it was morbid, exaggerated. But now I understand it's not morbid, it's simply real. Because each encounter can be the last, and more importantly, each specific version of each encounter definitely is the last. I will never again have that specific conversation with that person at that moment. Even if I have 1,000 future conversations with them, that version, with that context, that energy, those possibilities, is dead. And if I wasn't completely present for it, then it never truly existed, except as a ghost, an opportunity I passed over. When I finally understood this, when the real death of the people I loved forced this understanding upon me, it was like waking from a dream where I had been rich but never spent anything, where I had treasures but never appreciated them, where I possessed time but never lived it. And the awakening brought no solace. It brought only the stark awareness of how many treasures I let rot by always saving for a tomorrow that never came. But here's what I've also learned, and it's the only redemption in this story of loss. There are still moments happening now. There are still people around me, and each moment with them is still a unique and unrepeatable opportunity. I can't recover what I've lost. Those moments died without being lived, and there's no possible resurrection. But I can change how I inhabit this moment, this now that is the only real time that exists. I can choose to be completely present when someone speaks to me, not planning my response, but truly listening. I can look at people and truly see them, not as categories or roles, but as unique miracles that have never existed before and will never exist again in this exact form. I can treat each conversation as if it were the last, not because I'm being dramatic, but because I'm being realistic. Because that specific conversation, with that content, that energy, those possibilities, is definitely the last of its kind. And when I finally live like that, when I stop saving my presence for later and spend it, completely now, something changes. It's not that I won't feel loss when people leave, but it will be a clean, complete loss, without the added layer of regret for everything I didn't experience when I had the chance. It will be sadness for their absence, not shame for my own absence when they were present. And that difference between lamenting that they're gone and lamenting that you were never really there is the difference between honoring a life lived fully together and being haunted forever by a life that could have been lived but was wasted, waiting for the right moment that was already happening. If these words from the 11th century imperial court still resonate with you today, leave a like and subscribe. Because while I learned these lessons too late, perhaps you still have time to be present with those who are still here. See you next time, and when we do, I promise to be completely here.